Happy 2023, everyone. Today we're talking about one of the most interesting provisions in this new legislation known as the Secure Act 2.0, which is going to allow for transfers from 529 college savings accounts to Roth IRAs. Stick around. And real quickly, I promised my colleagues Nikki and Jim at Troutbrook Financial a quick shout out, so here it is. This one's for you guys. Now, my professional focus is working with retirees. One thing that often comes up, one thing that clients ask me about is an interest in setting up accounts for grandchildren. And it's typically in the context of providing something for college. Of course, 529 college savings plans are attractive because they offer some tax benefits. They're much like a Roth in that money goes in on an after-tax basis and it comes out tax-free so long as it's used for educational purposes. But this always brings up the question, what happens if my grandchild doesn't pursue education after high school? Obviously, it's tough to know, especially if your grandchildren are months or years old. I even think about this with my own kids who are 6 and 3 as I'm stuffing money into their 529 plan every month. Now, to be sure, there are options if money in a 529 plan is not used or if it's not totally used. Maybe there's just some residual balance. There's kind of a list of things. I'm not going to go through that list today, but we're going to discuss something new, a new option, which was created by this legislation, which is particularly interesting. And this new provision is going to allow for unused 529 money to be transferred to a Roth IRA, which of course ultimately could be used for retirement. Now, this new provision is getting a lot of attention because it obviously somewhat alleviates concerns of overfunding 529 plans, but it also introduces a new way to fund the coveted Roth IRA, which is generally considered the most favorable retirement account type because money goes in after tax. Once it's in the accounts, it grows tax-free and it comes out tax-free in the future. So if you just do a simple calculation, think about this in the context of someone in their early 20s. Let's say they're done with school, they have extra funds in their 529, they transfer that into a Roth. They could potentially compound that money for 40, even 50 plus years. And if you just put a simple long-term average rate of return on that, very reasonable, you can easily come up with an account balance that would grow to 6, if not well into the 7 figures. Now, this sounds great, obviously, but of course it comes with a bunch of rules because Congress, looking ahead, did not want this to be abused, particularly by wealthy families. So here are kind of the key things you need to know. First and foremost, this is not even available to do this approach until 2024. So don't run out and tell your financial guy or gal you're ready to do this here in 2023. It's going to take some time for financial institutions to just figure out the logistics and the process for getting this done. Additionally, this is also really important. It's only going to be allowed for 529 accounts that have been in place for at least 15 years. Okay, you're going to see a bunch of these rules are meant, again, to make sure people aren't gaming this new provision. Additionally, any contribution made to a 529 plan within the last 5 years is going to be ineligible to transfer into a Roth. So it's all got to be money that's been in the account for at least 5 years, and the account itself is going to have to have been in place for 15. Congress obviously put these rules in place around this provision to prevent people from basically just trying to, find another channel to funneling money into Roth IRAs. The point is they want to make sure first and foremost that these 529 accounts are being used for what they were intended for, educational purposes. But you'll see they're really trying to clamp down on this with these last couple things. So additionally, the annual transfer limit into a Roth from a 529 is going to be the same as the Roth IRA contribution limits. So in 2023, if you're under 50 years old, the maximum any individual can contribute to a Roth IRA straight up is $6,500. And that same rule is going to be in place for transfers from 529s to Roth IRAs. And also important, you can't do both. Part of the rule is 6,500 is going to be, and this can change, of course, year to year, but whatever the contribution limit is in that given year is going to be the maximum for regular contributions and these transfers combined. Furthermore, Congress has put a lifetime maximum on this provision of $35,000. So this was clearly meant to prevent wealthy families from, really taking advantage of this provision to get money into that tax-free bucket for their heirs. But here's what I just want to mention something I touched on before. If you compound $35,000 for over 40 years at, say, 7, 8, 9%, which is feasible, it's been done historically. If you take a look at the long-term stock market averages, you can easily come up with a number that's in the upper six figures to well into the seven figures. That's why this is such an interesting new rule. And also remember that $35,000 into a Roth 40, 50 years down the road would be totally tax-free. Now, last but not least, and this one, you might scratch your head and say this seems pretty obvious, but the Roth IRA receiving funds from a 529 plan must be in the same name as the beneficiary of the 529 plan. So, for example, my oldest daughter, Avery, let's say she was 22 years old and she had some unused money in her 529 plan that was not going to be utilized for school. She was all done. Well, I could set up a Roth, but it would have to be in her name to receive those funds. However, this brings up a potential planning opportunity, which is already being discussed in the financial planning world. On 529 accounts, you can change the beneficiary. Okay, so I think this will ultimately be tested potentially in the courts. But again, let's just go back to the example. My oldest daughter, Avery, 22, let's say she's done with college, and I'm about to retire. Well, in 529 plans, you can actually change the beneficiary. So if I changed the 529 beneficiary to me, the way it looks right now, the way the law is written, I could then transfer those funds into my Roth IRA. Now, I want to be clear, this is something, this whole provision doesn't even come into effect until 2024. So none of this stuff has been tested, but this is a strategy that's already being discussed in the financial planning world. It's kind of a way to save money for your kids' education or grandkids potentially. If you're still around when they're done with school, potentially you could take any of those residual funds back if you change the beneficiary on the 529. Interesting stuff, right? This is definitely going to create planning opportunities in the future. And this is just one provision of this broader law, which is generally known as Secure Act 2.0. It's full of changes to the retirement system, including required minimum distributions. I just did a video talking about that. I'll make sure to throw that on the end screen if you're watching on YouTube. Anyway, look, I hope you enjoyed this, and of course I'd be honored if you'd subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to see more videos like this. If you got any questions about retirement planning, that really is my professional focus, so please feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to have a no-cost consultation or just have a quick call with you. You can find my info in the description below, and as always, I hope we'll see you on the next one.